Hi there again. So here we are. We are finally here, ready to do the last in this series of recordings for test 2. So this is a question in which we have to sort costs into fixed costs and variable cost so that when we can continue and work out some break-even calculations. So I have what I think is a lovely question for you, which I'm going to share on the screen now quickly. You know the drill by now. I need to set up, won't be a minute. Right, so here we are sharing. Now I just need to find my documents. Here we go. Right, so let me just show you the questions, what we need to do. Number 1, variable cost per unit. Number 3, fixed cost per month. Number 4, calculate the selling price because there's a markup on cost. And then the other questions are all to do with break even. Right, so as I mentioned before, always very, very important when you're doing a question such as this, that you take particular note of what the product is. So that will allow you to categorize the cost. So the first thing we're looking at is, what are we making here? Lovely hand-knitted scarves. Winter is around the corner. In fact, the last few days have been a bit chilly here. Definitely, the cold season is on the way. So we're going to look for variable cost per scarf. So now in our minds, we must be picturing, these scarves. I was trying to say visualize and picture at the same time and got it all wrong. Sorry about that. So let's read what the story says. These scarves are knitted in a factory in the Eastern Cape. They pure wool, so obviously they're going to be quite luxurious and quite pricey. They come in one size, which makes our calculation easier, and they are unisex. Right, so the company can produce 200 scarves a month. Here is some of the information. Right, so the first question requires us to work out the total variable cost per scarf. So these are going to be all of the costs involved in the production of a scarf. So always there will be direct materials, and there will be direct labor. Those are the non-negotiables. They're always there. And then any other cost, so long as it is occurred in the factory and it is related to the production of the scarf, will be a variable cost. Right, so let's start at the top and work our way down and see which ones we can find. So first of all, a scarf needs a meter of pure wool. Now, obviously, these are wool scarves. So that is obviously going to be an example of a variable cost. So let's tick this one. And how much? It requires 1 meter, and that is 15 Rand a meter. So that is straightforward. The cost of the wool will be 15 Rand. The next item we come across is the time taken to knit a scarf. It's 3.5 hours, and it's directly involved in the knitting of a scarf. Therefore, it is variable. And then we need to cost it at 60 Rand an hour. So our second component of variable cost is direct labor, and that will be 3.5 hours times 60 Rand. Then, when the scarf is knitted, it needs a label. It's a proudly South African product. And because the question is asking us to calculate variable cost per scarf, we need to be careful here, because have a look at the next 2 pieces of information. So labels are bought in a box, and the box consists of 100 Rand. But we are doing the variable cost of a single scarf. That's why we must say 240 Rand, which is for the 100, and we must divide it by 100 to work out the price of 1 label. So obviously that will be 2.40 Rand, and it is variable because it belongs to a scarf. Then we have glue needed to stick the label on. It's related to the scarf, therefore also variable. We're going to buy a tube of glue, and that tube can handle 60 labels. Only one label per scarf. Therefore, we're going to take the 90 Rand and divide it by 60, and that will give us 1.50 Rand per scarf. Then we continue to read, and we see that a few months ago, not now, some of the workers were sent on a knitting course, and that cost 6,000 Rand. Okay. I want us just to have a look here at number 2. So one of my first recordings on all of the different types of costs was we had, just to remind you, product cost or period cost, fixed cost, variable. We have controllable or uncontrollable. We have sunk cost, and we have opportunity cost. So let's have a look at number 2. I'm asking you to explain the meaning of a sunk cost and to give an example from the information that we've got above. So just to recap, a sunk cost has already been incurred, and nothing that we do now or at a later date can change this. So that example of the training course for the workers, that one has happened. They have been trained. It has been paid. Nothing can reverse that going forward. So we're going to say that that 6,000 Rand for the training course is an example of a sunk cost. Other costs that we have to calculate here, just looking at number 3, we want fixed cost. Now have a look at the questions. This is worth noting. Sorry, questions are above. My mistake, sorry. When it comes to variable cost, its variable cost will always be per unit. That's why it says per scarf. Okay. But then fixed costs are those costs that are unrelated to the level of output. So therefore, those will always be worded differently. Those are fixed costs per month. And it says, assuming that the factory is operating at full capacity. So let us read what information we've got here. They can make 200 scarves a month. We've already dealt with this one over here. This one was an example of a sunk cost. Those other 4 above are variable cost. Okay. Now let's come and look and see what other costs we've got. Okay. The factory supervisor earns a salary per month. So straight away, that's telling me that that is unrelated to the level of output in the factory. So that is going to be a fixed cost. So I'll just put a fixed next to it, but we need to be careful because the question was clear. It said, the fixed cost attributed to the scarves. So this is a factory that is knitting clothing. They've just now recently added a new item, which is the scarf, to their clothing range. So when we are calculating the fixed cost attributable to the scarf, we must only take into account that portion that is new and is a consequence of them producing scarves. So let's read this properly. This factory supervisor, besides being paid 12.5 a month, he's going to spend 3% of his time supervising the knitting of the scarves. So that calculation, we need to adjust a bit. So we're only going to find the 3% of the 12,500, and that will make it a fixed cost. Then we're going to look at a quality controller. 10,000 a month. Does he have anything to do with the scarves? Yes. He will spend 8% of his time assuring the quality of the scarves. Okay. So it is going to be a fixed cost because he is paid monthly. See, that's the criteria here, but not the full 10,000, only the 8%. All right, then moving on to factory rent. Once again, the clue is here. It's per month. That means it's fixed. We need to see whether any of this rent is attributable to the scarves. So this rent here is for both the factory and the office. So first of all, we need to apportion the space based on area of the factory. So our first adjustment is we're going to find 85% of the 14,000. That will give us the total factory rent. But remember that the factory is being used for other activities. We need to find the percentage that is due to the scarves. So that is 10%. So our calculation will be 14,000 times 85% to get total factory rent, then only times 10%, and that is the portion associated with the scarves. Okay. Then electricity, it's 6,000 per month, meaning that that is also fixed. However, the scarves are hand knitted, so they don't require any electricity. So therefore, we will ignore that one. It's not relevant. Okay. We have no wastage either, so we don't have to account for that. That we will look at in Learning Unit 7 when we do job costing. We do spoilage. Okay. Then finally, the factory has enough knitting needles. They don't need to go and purchase any more new ones. So there's obviously no associated cost with that. So let me do number 1 and number 3 at the same time based on that categorization that I've just gone through. So just a reminder, we're doing the variable cost per scarf. So we've got the 4 things. We've got wool. We've got the direct labor. We've got the cost of a single label. We've got the cost of the glue for one label. Add it all up, and we're going to get 228 Rand and 90. Now moving on to the fixed costs. We've got 3 things here. The supervisor of the factory, their salary, importantly only the 8%, so 375 Rand. Similarly with the salary of the quality controller, not the full salary, but only 8%, which is the 800 Rand. The factory rent, only a small portion of it. So 10% of the 85% is 1,190. So there are my 3 fixed costs. Add them together, gives me a total of 2,365, and that is the fixed cost for the month related to the scarves. Right. Now let's go back to the questions. We're up to number 4. The company will mark up the scarves at 200% above the variable cost. So now we're needing to calculate the selling price. So as many businesses do, selling price is equal to variable cost plus markup. So we have just calculated variable cost up here in number 1. So all we're going to do is we're going to add 200% onto that. Just be careful here. Don't multiply by 2 because we are adding it on to variable cost. So either you can find 200% and add it, or in one single step, you can multiply it by 3. So therefore, the selling price per scarf amounts to 686 Rand and 70 cents. Then going back to the question, these next 3 parts relate to break even. Okay. So just a reminder on the concept, break even is the number of units of output or the amount of the total sales revenue that just covers the cost. So the business neither makes profit nor loss. It is the point at which the profit is zero. And once we surpass that level of output or sales, then the business has entered the profit zone. Right. So I think perhaps I will just change the order a bit here. I'm going to start with number 7. So the number of scarves that they need to sell in order to break even. This requires us to find the break-even units. So the formula for the break-even units is your total fixed cost divided by your marginal income per unit. I should actually have typed in per unit over there. Let me just do that. Sorry, a bit of a silly, careless mistake there. I was in a rush. So total fixed cost divided by marginal income per unit. Now, what is your marginal income per unit? Just want to sort out some terminology here. Marginal income per unit is the same as contribution margin per unit. The book is a little confusing here in that it just alternates quite freely between terms. Contribution margin per unit and marginal income per unit are the same thing. And how do we calculate that? It's equal to your selling price per unit, excluding that, subtract your variable cost per unit. So what is our selling price per unit? We worked it out on the previous page. Variable cost plus markup. It was 686 Rand and 70. So I'm just going to show you here is where the working is done. As part of the calculation for the marginal income ratio, we need the numerator over there. We need marginal income. So here is the working already done for you. It's the selling price of 686.70, subtract the variable cost per unit that we worked out. And that is going to give me 457 Rand 80. Remember, method marks will apply so long as you have shown all of your workings. So let's say that you messed up a little bit in parts 1 and 3. And then obviously that would affect your selling price as well. So long as you move forward doing the correct method, you will not lose the marks again. So our contribution or our marginal income per unit is 457 Rand 80. So now I'm going to use that value in here. And I'm going to use my total fixed cost as worked out in part 3, and I'm going to divide. And now just a reminder again, can't stress it enough. When we do break even, no matter what, we are always going to take those units and we are going to round up. So I'm just going to do that calculation for you now. So 2365 divided by 457.80 gives 5,17 scarves. Always please round up because we have not covered all of our costs or broken even until every last bit of cost has been covered. So therefore, this business needs to produce and sell 6 scarves in order to just cover its cost. Now, let's just have a look at something interesting over here. How profitable is this business potentially? Let's have a look at some information in part 1. Sorry, over here it says it's got the capacity to manufacture 200 scarves per month. So only 6 scarves are required to cover all of the cost. So that means that the other 194 are going to contribute towards profit. So this would appear to be a very profitable business. Just out of interest, that 194 scarves is known as the margin of safety in terms of units. For those of you who are carrying on with Financial Management 2B next semester, we will do break even again, and we will specifically look at the margin of safety. So it's the difference between your maximum budgeted output and the break even. So our break even is 6 scarves, therefore the remaining 194 can contribute towards profit. Right, so which other questions can we tick off the list here? We've done number 7. Now let's do number 5. Calculate the marginal income, not per unit, but this time the marginal income ratio for each scarf. So the marginal income ratio is the marginal income as a percentage of the selling price. So we have got all of our pieces of information ready. So our marginal income, as we worked out, is just a reminder, the 457.80. And now we convert that to a percentage of the selling price, which is the 686.70. So 66.7% of the selling price is taken up by the marginal income, which means that the other 30 bit is going to be to contribute towards the fixed cost. And then the last of the questions that we're going to do. So for break-even sales revenue, there are 2 formulas. Either this one, like I'm going to do for you now, number 6, or a slightly simpler one. So why I'm doing this method in number 6 is because number 5, I asked you to calculate the marginal income ratio. So one option to do the break-even sales revenue this time, not units, is to use a formula that is very similar to the one for the break-even units. Only difference now is this time we are saying the total fixed cost divided by the marginal income ratio, which we worked out as 66.7%. So therefore we divide the fixed cost of 2365 divided by 0.667. And obviously the break-even sales revenue must be expressed in rands. So 3,545 rand 73 cents. So finally, I just wanted to work out the other way. So let's say that we did not have to work out the marginal income ratio. Say we did the break-even units. So what we could do now is we could take those break-even units and we could sell them times the selling price per unit. And in our particular case, and remember there will be slight differences here because of the rounding. Okay. We're going to take those 6 scarves and we are going to multiply them by 686.70. Oh, sorry, what have we got happening here? 686.70. Let me just get my calculator. And we're going to get 4,120.20. Just checking that. Yes. Now, why is there a slight difference between the two? Obviously, it's because we took the 5,17 and we rounded it up to 6. So if you should get this in an assessment and the question doesn't specify a way to work out your break-even sales revenue, then the choice is yours entirely. Okay. So long as you get something which is quite close, like this, you will get the correct number of marks. No need to go and work out the contribution margin ratio if you've already got your break-even units. Okay. I just wanted to throw in as many possibilities here as possible in the one question. Right. So there we go. that is all that I've wanted to do for you to help with learning Unit 4. So best of luck, everybody. I shall be thinking about you on the 9th of May. You're all going to make all of your lecturers extremely proud because you're going to do so well. Cheers for now. We will be chatting again just before the exam.